everyone, Dr. Colleen here. This video is going to be about computer posture or seated posture. So I'm sitting in an office chair right now, and it is a very basic office chair with an extra added lumbar support. So people ask me all the time what the perfect chair is. I guess you could learn what your habits, bad habits are, and get a chair that will support that. But regardless of how much you spend or what kind of chair you get, we can still sit, terribly in any chair. So it does help. There's a cushion on the bottom, and that gives a little more shock absorption. But we are going to start with your basic chair, teach you some good posture patterns, and of course, always, this does not take away from your strengthening, which will help you hold yourself up in here, and you don't have to be so consciously aware. But it is good to break bad, unhealthy patterns that we might have. So you can't see my feet, but my feet are planted on the floor. There's plenty of room for them to be on the floor. And with them being on the floor, it still keeps my knees just below my hips here. So if your feet aren't firmly planted on the floor, you need a box or a step or something custom, a couple, if you're at home, blankets, that will let you have this hip position and your feet flat on the floor. And then we're going to get to the arms position. So 3 major points that one might have to be modified depending on how your chair. This one has a pump so it can go up and down. So feet are firmly planted, knees are in line with hips. Every time you catch yourself wanting to cross or tuck, just remind yourself, no, we're going to get centered. Your knees are slightly below the hip position, and then we're going to come up into our torso. So I said I do have this lumbar support. Again, it is just a cue for me to stay lifted and upright. It does. I can still sit pretty terrible in it, but I could sit way worse if I didn't have it. So it just cues me. So when I feel a lot of pressure going into it, it reminds me to bring myself back up to a seated, lengthened position. So anchoring into the hips again, we want to make sure, depending on the style of the chair, that we're not up on a corner, so that brings a tilt in, that we are doing the best we can to find that center. The sit bones are at the bottom part of your pelvis, and you want to get those anchored in balance. So hips, knees in line with ankles, and then we're starting to feel that lift up through the spine again, as if a string is pulling you up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to open up those shoulder blades, open up the collarbones, open up the chest. And now we're going to talk about the hand position. So you want to make sure that the shoulders aren't up here, they're nice and relaxed down. So whatever your mouse, and you're not reaching too far out for that mouse. So I usually advise to switch hands either throughout the day or throughout the weeks, so that you're not causing any repetitive issues either into the shoulders, elbows, and wrists and fingers. So I've even used it on my thigh in the past because I wasn't able to get the perfect ratio, and so that was what needed to happen to at least keep my shoulder relaxed. If you're using a finger mouse pad, I would invest in getting a mouse, and so that you're not crossing over the body in a permanent position or repetitive throughout the day, that this gets to stay nice and open, because that is one of the main things that happen with seated position, is the shortening and the tightening of these pec muscles here in the front, which pulls down onto the neck. So anything we can do to keep that expanded and allow for better circulation, better able to take big breaths, and that will keep the blood flow going up into the brain. It will also open up the belly, so there's not compression happening on the digestive system. So that's nice and open, giving that its flow that it needs throughout the day. Coming up to the head, now this is something we talk about in wall posture, is learning where our head should be in our center of mass. So you might just want to check every once in a while in case you end up luring into the computer screen, which is a very natural thing to do. So just kind of bringing yourself back, maybe going to the wall posture to gain back that proprioception of where your ear is in line with your shoulders, in line with your hips, down and find that center of mass and where that position is. So from here, we're just going to go over it real quick again. Feet are firmly planted, knees are in line with hips, knees are slightly angled down from the hips. We have the towel or blanket or support cueing us to sit up tall and lengthen. Shoulders are open, hands are as neutral position to keep the shoulders and chest open and chin in. Now when it comes to the computer angle, based on your height, you want to have a 2-inch below gaze into the center of that monitor. So if you're sharing the computer with others, there might need to be a pile of books on the side so that you can change that. If you are on a laptop, if you are at home, highly, highly, highly recommend getting a docking station or hooking up to a monitor, but a docking station, and then maybe investing in, they go as low as $15, a keyboard, and so that it's up and lifted, because if you're down here, you just can't help but go into this position. It's just going to pull you all forward. So get it up there. And again, if it's a 17-inch or smaller monitor, you want that, this is for your eyes, 20 to 30 inches away from you. And if it's 17 inches or larger, it can be that 30 inches or a bit more away from you so that the eyes aren't straining. So just a quick overview to support that handout that you would have gotten to help keep our posture. Again, in that other video I made, the movement video, remembering it is good to get yourself moving, whether it's up and heading to the restroom or to the printer, or to just walk around the office or the house to get yourself moving. It is every 10 minutes, but as much as you can, or adding in that other video, the stretches and movements that we went over of the body.